yards allowed. In fact, their yards allowed are the fourth fewest over the last 15 seasons, trailing only the 2023 Browns, the 2014 Seahawks, and the 2011 Steelers. I mean, that's a playoff team. We know a little bit about them sitting here in the host seat. And somehow we all know and love the leading tackler on the Steelers, who was me. That's who. All right, guys. So let's flip it now and see. I didn't write that, by the way. Lydell wrote that, and I wasn't going to read it, but then I saw it after I already said my part, and that's why I said it. Tim, do you expect this Texas defense to go after Justin Herbert this week?
RC, let me just first say this, okay? We live in a very negative society, social media, things like that. Take your victory laps when you can take them, man. Like no shame in doing that whatsoever. No shame in doing that, okay? Take those victory laps when you can take them, okay? So that's what I would say there. As for the Houston Texans and their defense, look, the big thing for me is how good they are up front, right? Like we oftentimes talk about when you can't win up front, what are you doing to generate pressure? What are you doing to get home and create pass rushes and do all that stuff? And RC, you know, being a leading tackler, being a guy that's played in the secondary. Look, when you bring pressure, man, it can help you. But listen, it leaves voids too. Yeah. When you can rush four, which the Texans do a lot, man. They play a lot of like 3 deep, rush four. Like they do that. Like, and when you can do that, and oftentimes actually in certain like longer scenarios, they'll just rush 3 and they'll still end up getting home. When you can do that, just you're better on the back end as well in terms of how you can cover. So that, to me, is the key for them. And it also is the thing that the Chargers struggle with the most. They're not good up front on offense. And they're facing probably, the best front in football. Yeah. So, I think that, really, really leans heavily into the Texans' favor.
I think the other thing that's big about this game is the ability of the playmakers on the back end. You mentioned only being able to rush 3 or rush 4. That oftentimes gives guys like Jalen Petrie or Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley Jr. opportunities to see the football and get the ball. There are 4 guys on the back end that have 4 interceptions this year. Derek Stingley took a pick 6 to the house last week against the Las Vegas Raiders. And so for Justin Herbert, who knows about this secondary after throwing 4 interceptions last year, which was 1 more than he threw the entire season, protecting the football when he's pressured is going to be extremely important for this team, who has a defense that could keep them in the game with the Houston Texans. So that's what I want to get to you about, Mina. Jesse Minter has done an amazing job with this Chargers defense. What do they have to deal with, or how will they deal with C.J. Stroud working to disrupt him?
They got to figure out a way to take away the middle of the field or make it hard for him. C.J. Stroud struggled last week quietly. Like, nobody watched the game against the Raiders, but he was up and down, Ryan. And what I noticed is something I have noticed with him at times, which is occasionally throwing outside the numbers, he can have issues with accuracy, throwing out. Whereas over the middle of the field, he is, in my mind, one of the 2 or 3 best passers in football. So now you got a Chargers defense that is exceptional on throws outside the numbers, but can be had, and some of that is structural. They play a lot of split safety, you know this. If I'm Jesse Minter, and I'm looking at what this Texans passing attack does on inbreakers, crossers, digs, that's what I'm trying to take away from C.J. Stroud, because that's how they kill you. And if you can take that away, if you can create some traffic there and force them to work outside the numbers, I think that's where I start feeling better about the Chargers from a matchup perspective.
Well, I didn't hear the goal. Wow. There it is. This is actually a strange pick. I expected one of us to pick, but it's only 3 of us. I expected one of us to pick the Chargers with the way that Justin Herbert is playing, and also this defense giving them a chance to win. But these are teams that could see the Bills in the playoffs, so it'll be exciting to watch which defense can affect what quarterback the most. The Seahawks are at the top of the NFC with a 12-3 record and have a 41% chance to get the #1 overall seed, according to ESPN Analytics. The 49ers have the next best shot at 32%, and the Bears and the Rams are very much in the running as well. Under rookie head coach Ben Johnson, Chicago is trying to be the NFC's top seed for the first time since 2006. He and his opposing coach on Sunday, Kyle Shanahan, spoke on this big matchup.
I think Shanahan is one of the best, if not the best in the business in terms of doing this, calling plays at a high level for as long as he has. You always like to turn on that San Francisco tape each week, whether you're playing them or not, just to look at some of the stuff that they're doing. And it's changed a little bit. You know, it used to be where they were always the number one team in the NFL in terms of rushing, and it's not to say that they don't still have that ability. They do, but it's kind of morphed a little bit, and they might be a more dangerous passing team right now.
Caleb is one of the best throwers, most athletic quarterbacks I've ever seen in terms of his height, weight, and speed. He makes some big-time throws, extremely scary on the perimeter. Can hold on to the ball for a while, not in a bad way, but by creating stuff, which makes coverages have to hold up forever.
Tim, listen, we got Ben Johnson. He stole all the sauce from Detroit and took it to Chicago with him. Kyle Shanahan possibly doing the best coaching job of his career. I mean, shoot, these guys don't even punt anymore. What do you see this game coming down to with both of these offenses playing at such a high clip?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about the job each guy has done. You know, I think the big key for me would be Chicago and their ability to run the football, because so much of, you know, what Kyle Shanahan was saying about Caleb Williams is true. He's remarkably talented, and he can do a lot on his own. But I really believe what makes them different is their ability to run the football. You know, we just go back to the game after Thanksgiving where, you know, they really ran it on Philadelphia. And so I think that, you know, that's the key for them. It opens up a lot of things. And then on the flip side of it, look, Robert Saleh's done an amazing job with that Niners defense. But, you know, when you are banged up, there's only so much you can do from a coaching perspective. So I think that, you know, there are very few things you can do to a team just lining up and saying, we're just going to go right at you with how we run the football. So to me, if the Niners can hold up, they got a chance there, you know, in the run game. If not, you know, I think we'll continue to see Chicago's success.
This is such an interesting schematic matchup offensively, Tim, because it's kind of like the Niners versus the old Niners in a way. And Ben Johnson sort of alluded to that. But, right, like what Chicago does in the run game that you talked about, condensed formations, under center, outside zone, all of the motion, and then play actioning off of that. That's what the Niners used to be. Now it's a very different offense, and Ben talked about this too. They're really more of a threat throwing the ball. Christian McCaffrey's more of a threat as a pass catcher than he is in the run game. Not that he's not a great back, but it's just the nature of the offense right now. I think for both teams, you really have to be aggressive because I think both offenses have a distinct advantage. You talked about the Niners' injuries. Chicago should be able to run the ball on them. And then on the flip side, San Francisco should be able to throw on a Bears pass defense that's given up a number of explosive plays, particularly over the middle of the field where they like to operate. So I want to see both coaches going for it on fourth down. I do not want to see them giving the ball back because, to me, whoever has the ball last may very well win this one.
I think it's about whoever has the ball last. I mean, it's also about whoever has the football most, right? If I'm the Chicago Bears, and you mentioned them kind of sort of being the old San Francisco 49ers versus this new team, it's about Monungai and DeAndre Swift to me. And what can you do to make Robert Saleh sell out to try to stop you in the run game that leads to Caleb Williams and his ability to utilize the boot game, utilize play action game, also extend plays with his legs, which we've seen them be able to create dynamic, explosive plays down the field with doing that. And so for the 49ers, this game is extremely important because they're fighting for a number one seed. Now here, guys, we're going to go with the picks. I don't know if we're going to get a gong. Let's put them up on the screen. What we got? Okay. I kept us clean. Normally, Hannah does this. Mina, you're going with San Francisco. Why did you pick them?
You know, I just was so impressed by that Niners offense now that they're healthy and Brock Purdy is kind of back to being Brock Purdy. And I just do not – the Bears' defense, the pass rush isn't good enough. I think there's places on the back end that they can attack. But as you see here, I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, you look at the San Francisco 49ers, they're still trying to win the West, fighting for the number one overall seed. So this is an extremely big game. Now it's time to get to AI-generated fantasy Insight provided by IBM. This week, Bears wideout DJ Moore is number 4 on the Watson X Diamond in the Rough list and is projected to have a high of 20.5 fantasy points versus the 49ers. The Texans defense has been dominant this season,